Hi guys! So today I want to talk about a book that literally inspired me to start this channel, a book that I couldn't stop thinking about when I first read it, and the book is The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. This book made me want to create the channel because I wanted to talk more about it. I talked a lot with my friend about it. We watched the movie together for the first time, and it made me want to read the book, and I love the book. So I am here to spread the gospel of the Hunger Games series, and I want to try to convince you that didn't read the book to give it a try. And also, if you already read it, please talk to me in the comments because I would love to discuss it. So for those that don't know, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, it's a prequel of the Hunger Games series. It's set 60 years before the Hunger Games, if I recall. It's been a few months that I read it, and a few weeks that I watched the movie, but I think it's 60 years. I'm sorry if I'm misremembering it. And the book follows the future present Snow when he's about to graduate high school, kind of, and he's assigned to be a mentor for the Hunger Games. And it's also a period where the games are it's not sure if the games are going to continue because people are not they're not watching it. The capital is not watching it because they think it's too violent, and it's kind of their jobs to rebrand the games, and the book is during this period of months. So the reason that made me love the book, actually I have to start saying that once the book came out in May 2020, I didn't understand much why that was needed. Why did we need a new book in the Hunger Games? I think the Hunger Games trilogy is perfect already. So I didn't want to read it. I was I don't know. I was really scared of ruining the trilogy for me and the whole universe. So I just didn't care about it until the movie came out, and then I had to watch it because as I said 1,000 times by now, I love the main series, and I kind of like the movies. I kind of like the movies. So I watched it with my friend, and I was like, that's interesting. I want to read a book. And then almost a year passed, and then I decided to pick up the audiobook because I didn't want to buy a book. And I mean, I was in love, I was captured by the first chapter. The audiobook has one of the best performances I've ever heard. So I also recommend that. It's really, really good. And then I was reading it, and I felt that wasn't, I was listening to it, and I felt that wasn't enough, so I bought the book. I bought a whole box with the first trilogy and the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and then I read everything in less than 2 weeks, a week and a half, and by that time I didn't finish a book in 7 months, so it was fast. It is fast. I think it's still fast. And I loved it, and I want to talk about why. I was a little skeptical of this book reading the main trilogy, but I think it's a nice way to pick up the story again, and it's a very fluid reading, it captures you from the start, just like the first trilogy, and I think has a different and a nice approach to the universe, to the games. And I think Snow is a very interesting character too, and the way that Suzanne Collins chose to write the book is also very interesting because like it's in third person, so like you are in his perspective in a way, but you're not literally inside his head. And I also like that he's behind the games and you see a little bit of the games, but you're not inside the arena anymore. We had this experience twice, and I don't think we need a third time, because like one thing that I don't really like about the movies and the whole marketing around the movies is like the glamour that they put on the games, that is basically like a bunch of teens killing each other. So when I don't think like we needed to see that again, even though like the games are well described by Snow. We don't have that experience from inside the arena. Like we have one scene where he goes in the arena and he has to fight for his life, but it's not the same. And I also like to see Lucy Gray in a third perspective. I think she's a very interesting character, and I think the movie brought a little bit of depth to her that we don't have in the book, which I also like. But overall, I don't think the movie is a very good adaptation of the book. I think the same thing happens with the Hunger Games. Snow and also Katniss, I think they're kind of complicated characters to put on screen, and I think the movie made some choices to try to humanize Snow that make him more of a likable character than he is in the books, because in the books he's very selfish, like from start, and the movie tries to make it less obvious, like try to make him more sympathetic, and he's not. So I don't really like it. I think we miss a little bit of his tricky personality, you know, like he tries to like be better than other people, and he is very opportunistic, and I don't think the movie shows it very well, and we see that in the book. One thing that I really liked also is that I feel that the writing style is a little bit more mature than the Hunger Games. Even though the Hunger Games are for teens, I know it can be a little harsh, but I feel like the writing style in this book is a little bit more mature, and the topics that are debated are kind of more mature. I don't know if it makes kind of sense. It's still a teen book. You see a lot of teen stuff there, but it's more mature. And I think my favorite part of the book is to see that Snow is a terrible person. He could be less terrible, but he would always be a terrible person. He's like I said, elitist. He is selfish. He lies. He doesn't care about anyone. He only cares about himself. There's like several parts of the book where he uses people around him, or he doesn't care that people around him, like his family, his friends, are being hurt, and he just wants to thrive, basically. This video is gonna be full of cuts because every time I think I'm done, then I say something else, and then I have to start recording again, so I'm sorry. But they try to make Snow sympathetic and also make Snow's and Lucy Gray relationship way more romantic than it is. When in the books, Lucy Gray has way less personality, and okay, because like we're literally seeing her from his perspective, and Snow doesn't see Lucy Gray as a person. And in the movie, it's another media, so you have to adapt characters in a different way, so I kind of get it. And I like that she has more of a personality in the movies, But because the movie is from Snow's perspective, and Snow doesn't see Lucy Gray as a person, she doesn't have much personality, and therefore their relationship is not as romantic as it is in the movie. Which I don't mind actually, but I think a lot of people misunderstand Snow's character, and that's why they think like he's a poor little thing, or that Lucy Gray wronged him, or that he's only evil because his heart was broken, which is definitely not the case. I think she's an interesting character, and I like that the little that we can actually see about her is through her music, because I don't even trust his descriptions of her and their interactions, because the man is good at manipulation, so I don't really trust that. But I feel that the only times we can actually get to know and get to see the real Lucy Gray is when she's singing, and I love the songs, and I think they were adapted in a perfect way to the movie. I mean, they are on my playlist. I listen to it like almost every day. So I think it's really interesting that we see that Snow doesn't care about anyone at all, especially her. And she's a good example to show what Snows really think about the districts, because to him, she's his property. I mean, she's his tribute. She's his key to success, and that's it. And he literally says that like she is his girl in a very, like, he's very possessive, like he's very jealous, he's very, the man is kind of crazy. It's interesting to see that he thinks of her as less than, because he said that she's not like the other girls, but she's still district. She's not like other district people, but she's not capital either, so she is less than him. And then see people like shipping them is kind of weird, because he never treated her right inside his head. I think like the highlight of the book for me is seeing the games from the perspective of the capital, especially Snow's perspective. But we have a lot of class discussions about the games with Sejanus and their other classmates and Dr. Gall, and how they see the districts and how they see the games, which is very interesting, because like so far we only saw Katniss' perspective, and we see that her life is a living hell from the moment she was born until the last days of her life. So it's interesting to see the way they are recovering from war, like 10-12 years after war, and the hatred that they feel towards the districts. Like Snow's grandma, I mean, no comments about how mean and how disgusting this old lady is. And I like the way that this reflects on the main trilogy, the main saga. I love that even though Snow is a bad character, we know from start, like, he has little to redeem himself. I like that we see his struggles during the book, him trying to justify the violence inside him. Like every time he kills someone, he tries to justify it, or every time he does something wrong, like something like the snake situation, where he tries to convince himself that he's helping Lucy Gray, but he only wants to win the prize. I think it's interesting to see how he develops until the end, where he actively decides to kill Lucy Gray. He's like, one thing that I think is like the highlights of the book is how Snow is shaped by people around him. We see that Snow is not a good person. He's already selfish, he's already opportunistic, but we see how situations and how people around him help shape him into being that crazy, violent dictator we see in the main saga. So I really like that we have Sejanus in the book, and the whole part that he plays as a character. He's an outsider, he's like an immigrant, he's like a social, not a social climber, but like a new money, and he's cast aside by his classmates. People look at his family in a different way. Snow is like disgusted by him inside. He doesn't respect Sejanus, but he also wants Sejanus kind of around because he's rich, you know, and every time like he has to help Sejanus, he regrets it, but immediately he thinks of the reward, and so he does it. So he doesn't show that he doesn't like Sejanus. And like I said, I like what he represents. I think he's a character that was not well adapted to the movie. In the movie, he comes across, at least to me and my friend that I talked to her about it, she agrees with me. He comes across a little whiny, a little like ungrateful for, you know, like he could be in the districts, he could be poor, his district true, but like he could be poor, he could be on the games, and he just comes across as whiny, as someone that is ungrateful, which is not true, because in the book we see his struggle as trying to fit in, trying to kind of enjoy this upgrade in life that he got, but at the same time he doesn't want to turn his back to his people, to his traditions, and he does think that games are wrong because he experienced it as a kid. He saw what happened in his district as a kid, and he keeps this memory with him. And in the book he has way more agency on doing things that in the movie sometimes Snow would do, like for example deciding to give food to the districts, deciding to give food to the tributes at the zoo. This is his idea on the book, but in the movie they decide to make this as a Coriolanus thing, and like Sejanus also looks like he doesn't understand at first, which is not his character at all. I think he's amazing. I like him as a counterpart for Snow and for Dr. Gull. They have a few scenes where they kind of get into an argument, like a serious argument, and sometimes when Snow is questioning himself and his moral, he kind of thinks like Sejanus, and he casts the thought aside because he thinks he's like Sejanus and he doesn't want to be like Sejanus. It's also interesting to see how envy he's of Sejanus. He literally says that Sejanus stole everything from him, the prestige, the money, you know, like, and he hates him. So it's interesting to see his reaction once Sejanus dies. He doesn't blame himself for it necessarily. He kind of does it by impulse. That's what he says, and we know that that's not what happens. So I think it's really interesting. And the other relationship that I think is the most important, I guess, during this book is Snow and Dr. Gull, and how she she shapes him into the dictator Snow that we see later. She gives form, she gives voice to his darkest thoughts, and she puts himself in situations where he is obligated to see the districts as less than. So it's interesting to see how he adopts a lot of her thoughts and a lot of her convictions later on. I think, even though I love the book, I think the third part is a little slow, starts slow and ends. A lot of stuff happens at once, unnecessarily, and I won't say that the book ends kind of nowhere, because we kind of know how things develop after that, but I think like the third part, it loses the rhythm a little bit. I'm sorry I'm making like a book movie comparison, but it's the movie literally made me want to read the book, so that's my comparison, and also the first trilogy is my comparison. But I just want to say that I'm also really excited to read the new book, Sunrise on the Reaping, next March. Really can't wait to read it. And I also want to see how Snow's government is going to look like in between books, in between the ballad and the main trilogy. We know that he's ruthless. We know that he's a dictator. We know that people are scared of him, like Katniss is terrified of him before meeting him in the Hunger Games ending, kind of catching fire beginning. So I'm really excited to see. We see a lot of this very strict and powerful and violent ideas being formed during this book, how he needs to control everything, how he feels that he needs to control the districts, how the districts must fear the capital. So I'm really excited to see how this is developed in the mid-period in history. Now I hope that I'm done, and I hope that I convince you to read this book. This book is amazing. It is a nice callback to the series, but it's also a very interesting character study of Snow and how he descends to violence and control. It has a nice discussion of the nature of men. Are they born evil? Are they corrupt? Are they good? It has some nice discussions about power and how to govern people. And like the whole Hunger Games series, it has also some discussions about war and the cost of war. And it's well written. I like it. I'm excited to read more of this universe pretty soon with the next book. And I hope you liked the video. And if you read it, again, please let me know in the comments, because I want to talk more about it. And thanks for watching.